I'm a manager at Wendy's. I can't say I love my job, but I don't mind it either. I like the environment, I get along well with my coworkers, and in general, I'm pretty comfortable. Everyone says I'm comfortable just because I'm the manager, but they're wrong. I have so much more work than everyone else. The real reason I'm comfortable is that I know what it's like to feel terrible, and I was during my first few months here. Not because I felt a lot of pressure, because it was my first job, or because I preferred to be at home. The real reason I was sick was that someone wanted to kill me. The day it all started, I had finished cleaning the bathrooms, and on my way out, I ran into Jonathan, the security guard. He had a letter in his hand and seemed to be looking for me. Hey, Michaela, I think this is for you. I found it on an empty table.
What's up with y'all, man?
Are you sure it's for me?
I don't know many people named Michaela. He had a point. I've never met anyone named after me either.
Ooh, is it a love letter? Are you confessing to her?
It's not mine. Someone left it on the table.
Designer, what's going on, baby?
Teasing you, Johnny. I overheard the conversation. Hey, Mika, give me that.
I hate when girls tease me, bro. Don't tease me, man.
No way. I want to meet your secret admirer.
Let it go. What's up with you?
Every day I watch you. Every day my heart dazzles looking at your eyes. Your golden hair shines, even held back by your Wendy's cap, when your smile invites me to be a part of your life. Okay, you
Bro's
should
not
stop
spitting with
reading
that.
No way. I've been your secret admirer since the first time I saw you, since chance crossed our eyes the day you walked in for the first time.
Good, Zach.
I'm in love with you.
My boy, my brother.
I know you're single, but I'm not interested in asking you out. I don't want to be another man in your life. I want to leave a mark on it forever, so...
Huh?
Okay, this is too much.
Creepy.
Keep reading. What does it say?
Let's see. Give me the letter. So, I will kill you.
Oh.
Mika, are you okay?
Oh.
No. Stay calm. We'll talk to someone.
Don't worry. I'll keep an eye on you.
Yo,
I
what's
won't
good,
let
Dark?
anyone come near you.
Thanks, guys.
For the next few days, everyone at Wendy's kept their eyes open. I felt like everyone was
see the
protecting
follows?
me.
Hey,
and throughout the
Twitch
time,
follows.
nothing was happening. I received a few more letters, but less and less
kick
frequently.
follows too. What's going
Everything
on?
seemed to work itself out, until one day. That day, it was my turn to close. My other two colleagues left a moment before me as I had to finish closing the cash register. I wasn't worried, as I was confident that Jonathan would let me know if anything unusual happened. What I didn't expect was that it would actually happen. Mika, I don't want to alarm you, but you should hurry. Something strange is going on.
What's going on?
Come, look. When we went to the entrance, the door was already closed, but behind it, a man was standing. The man's clothes were in disarray. He was very tall and had a huge, unkempt beard. The gaze was piercing, and since I arrived, he just stared at me. I tried to tell him to go away, but he didn't answer me. Just stood there, staring. Michaela! Whoa!
That scared me. How does he know my name?
Suddenly, the man pulled out something from behind him. It was an axe.
Oh no!
This must be your secret admirer. I'll go in the back and call the police. You stay here and yell at me if he does anything weird.
Okay.
Jonathan ran out the back door, and I turned around to look for my attacker, but he was gone.
Waiting for me to go live.
What? Where could he have gone? He was here just a second ago.
Ah!
Oh my god. Jonathan!
I ran towards Jonathan's voice, and there I could see them. Jonathan and my attacker were struggling at the back door. I ran to help him, but before I could do so, Jonathan was able to push him out the back door and quickly locked the door. Michaela!
So
Looks like the boys forgot to lock this one.
Oh, Jonathan, he could have killed you. Are you alright?
Yeah, he didn't do anything to me. I managed to call the police. We'll be here for a while until they come.
Thank you, man.
Is it safe?
Yeah, he won't be able to get in. Let your parents know you're here and that you're safe. They get worried and come looking for you before the police get here. They might run into that psycho.
Yeah, good thinking.
Terrified,
So,
I
Hundo,
called
you
my
take it
parents
like
and told them
W.
that everything was fine, that Jonathan was
Bro,
with me,
I don't know if y'all
and
know,
that
but the
the
air is
police were on their
terrible in New
way.
Jersey right now, bro.
They were
I barely
worried
can
and
breathe.
wanted to come anyway, but they understood that if the psycho
Literally in the
caught
war
them,
zone, sir.
they would
Like
cause
the
more
war zone
trouble.
gas.
So they just asked me to keep them in the loop.
I'm in the storm.
Hey, let me borrow your phone for a moment.
Yeah. Do you have someone to call too?
Nope, I just have to stop you from talking to your parents again.
Huh?
What?
Suddenly, and without warning, Jonathan threw the cell phone on the floor, breaking it immediately.
What have you done?
When I looked up to see him, his face had changed. He had a huge grin on his face, was moving his body nervously, and even worse, an obsessive look on his face that I'd never seen before.
Jonathan?
You are so innocent, Michaela. It was so easy to lock you up with me. Michaela! Michaela! You can stop shouting now, you'll get people's attention.
I don't understand. Who is he?
Just a homeless guy I paid for a little performance. Poor
What?
guy. Despite his height, he's a coward, but he's given it his all because he thinks I'll pay him more. If only he knew I'd frame him after killing you.
No! You know there are cameras here. You know the police will come.
Oh, come on, Michaela.
Why did he do
I
this?
deactivated all the cameras. I never called the police, and thanks to your call, not only your parents won't come after you, but they will think I'm the hero who killed their daughter's murderer. Oh, how I've waited so long for this. Every day I watch you. Every day my heart dazzles looking into
What a
your
weirdo.
eyes. Your golden hair shines, even held back by your Wendy's cap, while your smile invites me to be a part of your life. As he was about to attack me, I managed to knee him in the testicles and took the moment to run away.
That's a kick,
I
but
hid in the
alright.
storage, and quickly, I started to hear his voice. I love your spirit, Mika. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this cat and mouse game is really fun
Did that
for me,
testicle
but
kick not hurt
you know,
him?
I have to call the police, so time is against me. Stepping out of the shadows, I tried to hit him as hard as I could, but he easily caught my hand.
In your dreams.
With my other hand, I punched him in the nose, which knocked him back. My secret admirer knew very little about my life, especially since I practiced martial arts as a girl. Anyway, the danger was not over. The man threw a knife at me,
Let me Twitch
which I
follows.
managed to dodge by falling to the ground. He tried to throw himself on top of me again, but this time he didn't count on anything. The same screwdriver he tried to use to kill me was next to me. You're dead, Michaela! As Jonathan spun around on the floor, I opened the back door and stepped out. Behind the door, the homeless man
Into
was
a washroom.
staring at me. His
Okay,
gaze
Angel.
was not dangerous. It was a combination of surprise and fear. I looked back at him and he began to walk backward, losing himself in the night. After calling the police, Jonathan was arrested for attempted murder. Over time, and thanks to social media, many other similar allegations began to appear. No other girl could ever identify him, but this time Jonathan made a mistake. He harassed someone from his own work, someone who knew his real first and last name.
Yeah, that was kind of
Today,
stupid.
very few
Kind
of
of a
my
stupid play.
colleagues who still work with me know my story. Sometimes they want to tell it, but I forbid them to do so. I prefer that they're not scared, and that without them knowing it, someone is protecting them. Have you ever worked a night shift by yourself? I have, and let me tell you, it's not fun. I used to work at Wendy's, something that I didn't take pride in, but it paid the bills. I worked the night shift because that's when they needed someone, and I was always the one who was available. The restaurant was always empty at night. It was so empty, in fact, that the only sound you could hear was the sound of your own footsteps. That's why, when I started hearing laughter, I knew something was wrong. At first, I thought it was just kids playing.
Hey, but before we start this, before we continue this, John, make sure I come to the Twitch, the Kick, or the YouTube. I can go to the Twitch, Kick, or YouTube, man. We're live on Kick, Twitch, and YouTube at Hundo_Graham, bro. So it's up to y'all, bro. All right, let's start it up, bro. Hundo robbed me yesterday. No, I did not.
Playing pranks on me. Dozing off as I waited for the next customer, I was startled awake by the laughter. This was the first time I heard it.
Bro's on Kick now?
And it
Of course.
startled me out of my sleep. Welcome to Wendy's. What can I get for you? I stopped, my sleep-addled brain finally becoming aware of the fact that I had just heard laughter. No voices, nothing. Radio silence over the intercom system. My mind must have been playing tricks on itself, and there definitely wasn't any customer in the drive-thru either. I tried to shake off the feeling that something was wrong, but I couldn't. The laughter kept ringing in my ears despite
games
the
are
fact
low-key really
that it
boring now.
stopped
Yeah,
even
low-key.
before I had fully woken up from my sleep. What the heck? My voice drifted off as something outside of the window caught my eye. The flickering light across the street seemed dimmer than usual, and even though I've never had good night vision, I could make out something covering the light. Creeping closer to the window, I squinted my eyes in an attempt to see what was going on. Suddenly, the object seemed to focus, and I could finally make out what it was. My heart leapt into my throat as I stumbled backward, tripping over a chair and landing with a thud on the floor. The light was dimmer, that was for sure. What seemed to be a decaying hand reached over the streetlight, covering it with its bony fingers. My heart racing and chills running down my spine, I pulled myself to my feet and stared out the window. The hand was gone. The light seemed to be normal now. I must have been seeing things, I told myself. Maybe the lack of sleep was finally getting to me. As I told myself that, though, the light suddenly flickered brighter than usual, the light shining unreasonably brightly before a loud pop and explosion made the light go out completely. I yelped and covered my eyes, the change in light hurting them. When I looked at the window again, however, I saw something that made me wish I had never looked in the first place. A man stood barely inches from the drive-thru window, though I wouldn't describe him as a man at all. His
good,
long,
Roman?
bony face was skull-like in nature, with a hole in it where his nose had once been. He had hair, but his gigantic forehead eclipsed this wispy feature. His eyes were
They always
reddish
gotta roast it.
spheres,
They always gotta
no
roast the bad
pupil
guy.
visible on the filmy red and white surface. The most notable feature, however, was the 3 hands that covered the bottom half of his face. "Who the hell are you?" I yelped as his
That's
hand
Shigaraki
came up
off
and
of-
pressed against the glass,
off of My
his
Hero.
long nails scratching at the window. Not the hands on his face. Those remained unmoving, but his actual hand, I think. I couldn't tell for sure, as the darkness outside made it hard to see. The man, whatever he was, kept scratching at the
So
window,
Blood thinks he's
his nails leaving
Shigaraki,
long
no,
gashes
God.
in the glass. I scrambled to my feet and backed away slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. And then he spoke. "Flesh unto those who hunger." His voice was like nails on a chalkboard, and the words sent chills down my spine. I yelped and ran towards the back of the restaurant, my heart pounding in my chest. The scratching stopped, and I froze against a wall as I tried to stay silent. And then my phone rang. I jumped in shock and hurriedly stuffed my hand into my pocket, trying to pull it out and turn it off. I swiped at the screen frantically, my heart racing. It wouldn't stop ringing. It just kept going and going. Finally, I managed to turn it off. Yet barely seconds later, the same number called again. The screen said 667-333-6677.
Yo, that's my number. Yo, what? That's my number, bro. What the heck?
But I didn't know that number. Fumbling with the phone, I
Y'all gonna
tried
try
to
to
turn
call
it
it.
off
It's
again,
not my number.
but it still wouldn't. "Just stop calling already!" And then I made the biggest mistake I've ever made. I answered the phone to get it to stop ringing. "Come down to the basement, Johnny." Who is this?" "Come down to the basement, Johnny." The voice was familiar, yet I couldn't quite place it. It sounded like the voice of someone I knew, but I couldn't be sure. And then it hit me. It sounded like one of the kids who used to work at Wendy's. A kid who had just stopped showing up to work a few months ago. A kid who had worked the night shift, just like me. "It's the only way he won't get you, Johnny." The voice on the phone was talking about the man, the thing at the window. I hung up, my heart throbbing in my chest. As I did, however, I heard a crash as the glass at the front of the restaurant shattered. I gasped and ran toward the back, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't hear anyone behind me, but I knew he had to be there. The man with hands on his face. I saw the open door to the employee bathroom and threw myself in, my heart pounding. I locked the door and put my back against it, pressing my ear against the cold metal. I didn't
I know
hear
when you
anything.
make it a workout
but
account
that
on
didn't
TikTok,
mean
you
he
said
wasn't
something about
there.
it yesterday live.
Fumbling with my phone, I shakily dialed the only number I could think of, 911.
Soon.
Please hurry, pick up. He's coming
Yeah,
for me.
organize it.
Come to the basement now. The voice which had answered the phone no longer sounded like that of the missing employee. It sounded like the voice of the man who was after me. And then I heard his footsteps, getting closer and closer. I whimpered and tried to make myself as small as possible. The footsteps stopped outside the door.
I'm not gonna lie, bro.
Silence.
Strong
And
sucks.
then I heard the unmistakable sound of scratching at
After
the
this
door.
one, we're gonna find a different.
It
We're gonna find a
grew
different
louder
videos. We're
and
gonna find different
louder
videos, bro. Because
till
these
I
Johns
put my
suck.
hands over
They literally
my
put me to
ears,
sleep.
whimpering. And then it stopped, and I instantly knew why too. He had heard the faint noise. The sound of a customer at the drive-thru.
Hello? Is anybody working here? Gosh, I'm ready to order.
I heard the customer say, and I heard the footsteps getting softer and softer until they completely disappeared. And then I heard screams, blood-curdling screams over the intercom. And then it stopped as quickly as it started, the only sound being that of my own heartbeat. Several days have passed. The official story is that it was a bear attack of some kind. A bear attack that I survived and the unfortunate family at the drive-thru did not. All I know is that if I had gone down to the basement, it would have been me, not them. I can still hear the laughter in my head. Laughter slowly driving me insane. The laughter reminds me of the man with hands on his face.
Yeah, bro. We gonna that's the end of that one, bro. We're gonna find a different. We're gonna find like a different. What's SGG animations, bro? Let's see if they. I'm gonna see if they cool, bro. That's crazy. I'm gonna see if they got some good drawings, bro. They look like they got some good drawings, bro. Let's watch these 3 drawings, bro. Let's test it out. Let's test it out, bro.
My name is Easton Miles, and I live in Pasadena, California. My wife Camille and I spent many hours on a secluded beach about 45 miles from our home. We traveled there whenever we could. We had found our own little quaint wooden beach overlooking some beautiful rock
yesterday's live was a W.
with an open stretch of beach
Hey, thank you,
that
ma'am.
extended for miles both ways. We talked for hours and found it invigorating spending time away from the bustle of city life. One Saturday, on the 2nd of July, 2016, about 1 p.m., Camille went for a walk to spend some peaceful, alone time on the beach. She was normally gone for about an hour, but on this day, she never returned. I was frantic with worry, not knowing what happened to her. I called the police. A woman by the name of Leah said she had passed a woman that fitted Camille's description, heading in the opposite direction, about a mile away at about 1:30 p.m. Leah said they had smiled at each other as they walked by. The police combed the beach and surrounding areas in teams for 2 weeks. But Camille was never found. I never left home for 2 months.
Smoking in
after
Jersey is
that.
actually insane.
I couldn't come to terms with it. When the love of your life is missing, there is no closure. Even though deep down, I had an undeniable feeling that she was dead. One warm Friday, I decided to revisit our special place. Maybe I'll see her, I thought as I approached our wooden bench. As I was about to sit down, I felt like someone was watching me. I wasn't wrong. I turned around, and Leah was standing about 10 yards away.
Bro, how y'all feeling about this one, bro? I'm not fucking with it, bro.
Leah? I said, feeling startled.
Hi, Easton.
She replied.
It's so sad about your wife. How long has it been? 2 months now?
She added, a look of empathy on her pretty face. Yeah, I said.
This joint sucks. I'm not gonna lie. This joint sucks. We got like 6 more minutes left. I'm not doing that to y'all, bro. I'm not doing that to y'all. This one sucks. Let me see, bro. Let me see what we got, bro. I gotta look at something, bro. Scary animations, bro. Scary animated stories. Let's just do scary animated stories. I mean, this is a horror shorts drawing, but like it's copyright, so I can't stream that on YouTube. This one's from literally a day ago. Let's see this one. I can't go on horror shorts party, bro. It's literally copyright.
About 10 years ago, I worked at a cemetery. The money was good and it was relatively easy. All I really had to do was drive
That was
around
cool,
in my
bro.
truck and
Not
make
even
sure no
late.
kids were causing trouble. Every night was exactly the same, and by then I'd already gotten used to the creepy nature of the job. After a normal night of work, I got off around 6 a.m. and headed
Alright,
home.
let's see this.
I didn't usually go to bed until around 11 or so, and while I was getting ready at 10:30, I got a call from my boss. He asked me if I had seen anything last night, and I said no because I hadn't. He then told me that a grave had been defaced. I swore I didn't see anything though, especially not some group of kids, which are typically the culprit. Anyways,
This one
he
kinda
asked me
good.
if I could come back and help him clean it, and I agreed of course because I kind of felt like it was my fault. When I got there, I realized I had underestimated how horrible these writings on the grave had been. This was not the usual small writing or anything. There was writing all over the stone, with horrible words and markings. What made it so much worse was that when we were cleaning everything off, I was finally able to read who the person was. I will obviously not say the name for privacy reasons, but it was a child, only 8 years old when he passed away just a few months prior.
Video. Thank you, bro.
I was filled with anger and sadness, unlike any I felt before. I mean, who does that to a kid? I stayed with my boss for a bit, as we checked some surveillance footage. This cemetery was huge though, and the only camera we had was on one building where the funerals were held, and it wasn't very big. And again, this was quite a long time ago, and cameras weren't what they are today. We didn't see anyone at all. My boss notified the town's office, as the cemetery is owned and run by the city, and for the next few weeks,
I
they
like
had
the
some new guys
pacing.
come
I
out
love
to go on
this.
watch with me from dusk to dawn. Those weeks went by without anything happening. Didn't see anyone or find any defaced graves. One of the guys rode around with me while the other one stayed near the entrance. I actually became good friends with my watch partner. We wondered and talked about what the defacer looked like, and after some time it seemed like we'd never get to know. Nothing was really happening anymore, and it kind of seemed like a one and done type of screwed up situation. Eventually, the other watch guards left due to the inactivity, and it was back to just me. Another week went by of nothing before something happened again. One night,
Angel,
as
how
I
they
had
gonna
just
see your
started my
message?
shift and began patrolling, I drove all the way to the back of the cemetery, got out, and began my walk, which I had to start doing to see if any graves had writing or whatnot. As I was getting to about where the kid's grave was, I realized that something was off. I was a couple 100 feet away from the kid's grave, and it was pitch black, but something looked out of place. I stared in that direction for a whole 30 seconds, getting a little creeped out even. Then I started walking closer, shining my dim flashlight all around the area. Once I was just 100 feet away, I shined my
Good, Dark
flashlight
Boy.
again at the kid's grave. The light barely reached that far, and in the dim, foggy darkness, I could see a black figure laying on the ground completely still next to the grave. Obviously, I was horrified. I didn't know if it was a dead body that had been dug up or a living person trying to hide. I stepped closer slowly, and once I was maybe 40 or 50 feet away, I almost got a heart attack as the figure jumped up and sprinted into the dark field of graves, completely disappearing in the darkness in just a few seconds. I stood in place, shocked, horrified, and confused. Once I got a hold of myself, I ran back to the truck and radioed for the police. Then I went back over to the kid's grave. I warn you, what I saw was really disturbing. In front of the gravestone was a hole. It wasn't a big hole, nothing done from a shovel, but more like someone's hands. It didn't even go very deep, maybe just a foot. Either way though, someone had tried to dig up this child's grave with their bare hands, and it made me sick. I'm not sure what the person was trying to achieve, and unfortunately we never figured out who did it, but rest assured it never happened again. The town hired 2 new people permanently, and one of us always kept watch over that grave specifically, while the other 2 scouted the area. The city also had more people on watch throughout the day as well. To this day, that's been by far the worst thing I've seen while doing graveyard work. No ghosts, no creatures, just horrible human beings.
That was it? That was it, bro? Bro, that was it? Bro, That wasn't anything, bro. That was mid, bro. Bro, hold on, bro. L story, bro. L story, bro. L story, bro. We gotta find some good ones, bro. Can we find some good ones, man? Three new horror story animated, bro. What's this one? No, that one was butt. I would go to horror shorts party, but like it's copyright. I can't even use that. That was a mid. That story was about mid. Dr. No Sleep. Hold on. People were recommending me him. I'm gonna check him out, bro.
Dr. No Sleep.
The PA system crackled to life on a Thursday during second period in my junior year
I
of
like
high
this.
school. The familiar tones of the recorded voice filled my classroom.
Lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight. Lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight.
The words kept repeating as Mrs. Danbury paused at the board and looked up at the speaker in the corner of the room. "Okay, you all know what to do," she said, rushing toward the classroom door to shut and lock it. Nervous chatter went up among the students as we rose from our desks and moved into position against the wall. "Is this real?" My
Hold on,
friend
this joint's
Colin
tough.
asked as we sat on the floor with our backs to the wall. "Must be," I said. "They'd tell us if it was just a drill." The sound of helicopter rotors was faintly audible over the recorded voice of the lockdown alert, and the noise grew louder as we sat there in the dark classroom. After a few moments, it sounded like the helicopter was right over the school. A full minute passed before the helicopter moved again, the noise making it sound like it was going in circles above the campus. A loud bang, like a door flying open, sounded outside. Someone yelled in the hall, a sound that was quickly replaced by automatic gunfire. I slammed my hands over my ears, along with many other students. Some of the girls, and even a few of the boys, covered their mouths as they cried out softly. More gunfire erupted out in the hallway. It sounded as if there were 4 or 5 guns firing. An inhuman screeching sound pierced the air.
Hunter, you're gonna play a
making my
scary
eyes
game in
go
a few
wide.
hours? Probably. I don't
I
know.
looked over at Mrs. Danbury, whose face was drained of all color. She was the nearest to the door, the nearest to whatever the hell was going on in the hallway.
She quite literally can
The
move.
gunfire stopped, and I heard a man shout and then scream. His wail of pain stopped abruptly with a loud, crashing bang. I didn't have to see it to know that he'd been thrown into the lockers lining the hallway. The metallic bang was enough to tell me that. More gunfire sounded outside, and then more screaming. Then there was silence. For several seconds, we all listened hard for anything outside. The recorded voice was still going, and the helicopter was still faintly audible. The sound of running
Make
footsteps
sure y'all follow me
suddenly
for
came
more
to us from the
for more
hall.
stories, man.
The footsteps
and more
stopped
content.
abruptly, and a terrible scream erupted just before the door to our classroom smashed in. A SWAT officer flew backward into the room
Oh my
and
God.
slammed into Mrs. Danbury's desk,
What's going on?
which slid several feet from the impact. Cries of fear came from the students around me as they saw the soldier
But
was
he just got
missing an arm.
knocked into the classroom,
He'd
bro.
hit the desk with his mid-back, and
No
had
school
come to
shooter did
rest
that.
at an angle that
Nuh-uh.
told us his spine was broken. Once the soldier came to rest, there was only silence from the hall. It went on for long enough that I was starting to think the danger had passed. Mrs. Danbury apparently thought the same thing, because she crawled toward the doorway where the smashed door was hanging open. I don't know what she was trying to do, but as soon as I saw her move toward the doorway, I wanted to tell her to stop. Still, I made no sound for fear of attracting whatever was outside, if there was anything there at all. She peeked her head around the door jamb to peer into the hall. Her left hand came up to her mouth as if trying to keep herself from getting sick. She stood up and turned around to face us. "Okay, we need to move to another classroom," she said. "The hall looks..." A long, blistered, red and black arm with a
Why would you
claw-like
stand-
hand darted down
Bro,
from the ceiling
why would you
outside
stand in front of the door
doorway
with your back
and
turned?
grabbed
That's your
Mrs.
fault.
Danbury by the neck, stopping her words. It yanked her out of the classroom before any of us knew what was happening.
Yo.
We heard a scream and a thunk from outside. Then Mrs. Danbury appeared in the doorway again, only she didn't have any arms. Blood spewed from her massive wounds as she stepped into the room, looking back over her shoulder with a dazed look on her face. What she saw there snapped her out of it, and she started running toward the wall of windows opposite the doorway. Fountains of blood poured out of her as she ran past
my
her
gosh.
desk, screaming. A monstrous, scarred figure.
What is
that
it, a
looked like
bear?
badly burned mix between
That's a bear baboon?
and a baboon darted through the doorway after our teacher. It leapt, smashing into Mrs. Danbury just as she reached the
Bro, I would take the
window.
opportunity to dip.
Two of them tumbled out, falling to the ground just a few feet below. My teacher
It's cocaine
screamed
bear.
once more
No, on
outside
God.
before her vocalization stopped with a terrible ripping sound. All of us students stayed frozen against the wall, staring at the broken window, waiting for the thing to come back in. We should have run, but we didn't.
Why didn't y'all run? Why?
It was all too much for us. Eventually, the gruesome sounds from outside stopped, but none of us were willing to risk standing up.
They're literally
and moving
idiots.
toward the window to see what was happening. Not long after those noises stopped, we heard a flurry of gunshots from far off, likely off the high school campus. Hearing those faraway shots snapped me out of shock. I stood up and moved slowly to the doorway. I looked out to see the hallway littered with dismembered bodies. There was blood all over the place. A man with a smashed head lay below a huge and bloody dent in several of the lockers across the hall. A few other guys and I led the rest of the class out. We headed toward the evacuation spot and were about halfway there when we ran into more police coming into the school. They took us to safety. We were told it was an escaped animal from the zoo. That's even what they said on the news that night.
That is not
They
an
said it
escaped
was a
animal
bear.
from the zoo.
But I know what I saw. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't any animal I've ever seen. And the fact that there's a military research base not far from our school is just too much of a coincidence. But those of us who were in that classroom that day are smart enough to keep our mouths shut. But we know the truth. We'll always know the truth.
That was
Story 2.
Story 2, dead dog. Yeah, I like how short these stories are, bro. These are short and sweet. Hey, yo. Hey, I'm not gonna lie, yo. Hey, come to the Twitch, come to the YouTube, come to the Kick. I'm gonna give y'all 3 options this time, bro. 3 options, all right? Y'all already know, man. Come to the Twitch, YouTube, or Kick, bro. At Hundo_Gram, bro. Y'all see that yellow text right there in TikTok, bro? Come to the Twitch, YouTube, or Kick, bro. We is live, bro. I'm starting to wake up because like these are cool.
Dead all day. Before the lockdown even started, I knew something weird was going
Kick's a
on.
new streaming site. It's KICK, not
One.
KIK, not that one.
It was my senior year, and I had a pretty easy schedule. It was spring, and I could see the end of high school on the horizon. But that day, a Tuesday, my concerns turned from the mundane to the insane. At first, I shrugged off the strange feelings I had. I thought the teachers were just having an off day. Or maybe it was me who was having the off day. I told myself to forget about it until lunch came around, and I went off campus to get a burger with my buddy Tom. "What's up with the teachers today?" Tom asked, as we sat in the fast food drive-thru, waiting to pay and get our food. I turned, surprised at Tom, who was usually about as observant as an octogenarian with failing eyesight.
What?
"You noticed that too?" I asked. "Yeah, man. They're acting really strange. Mr. Bemis was just staring at me during first period. His eyes were all wide and blank. It was creepy as hell. Then during second period, Miss Delia forgot how to spell the word algebra. She just stood there at the board, her hand up, with the
How you
A
forget how to spell
written.
algebra?
I swear, she stood there for a full minute before Courtney Miller asked her if she was all right. It was weird. Maybe they all got together and smoked a blunt this morning or something." I laughed at that, thinking about the teachers hotboxing one of their minivans. But the laughter didn't last long. Tom was right. Something funny was going on. "Yeah, Mr. Liu walked super slowly up and down the aisles while we were taking a test today," I said. "He never does that. He always sits at his desk and reads or something while we take tests. And how slow he was walking? You'd have to try really hard to walk that slowly. Plus, I caught a whiff of him as he walked by one time. He stank. He was wearing cologne or something, but I could smell something nasty underneath it."
That's a clear on my eye.
"You know what?"
It's in my eye.
Tom said. "That made me remember something. You know how Miss Delia is always so prim and proper?
My fault, gang.
She's a neat freak, right? I nodded. I had Delia in one of my afternoon classes. Well, Tom continued, she looked kind of sloppy in class today. Her hair was frizzy, her makeup a little, I don't know, sloppy or something. It didn't connect until you said that about Mr. Lou stinking. Our conversation stopped as I pulled up to the drive-thru window to complete the transaction. Then I drove to a nearby park where we sat on the hood of my
They went to a fast food store just called fast food. Okay. Yeah, would y'all eat there? Because I would not.
Camry and ate, enjoying the spring day. We got back to school just in time for class and went our separate ways.
I'm not gonna
About
lie,
20 minutes into
there's something wrong with the kick stream. I'm gonna have to end the kick stream because there's something wrong with it.
I was in Mrs. Santiago's class when the alarm went off.
I'm gonna end the kick stream,
Mrs.
but
Santiago
all the other streams will
as
stay
if
up.
she'd been expecting it.
I'm actually gonna
which made me
take
think
kick
it was
out
just a drill. Although every other time they'd done a drill,
I will
they'd
figure
told us
that out.
beforehand.
I'll figure out what's wrong with
All
it
right,
later.
class.
But the
Mrs.
Twitch and YouTube are
Santiago
fine.
said, we're doing something a little different today. Half of you are going to stay here in the classroom like a normal lockdown drill. The other half will follow me to another location. It's something new. We're trying to see how it works.
Yeah.
I looked around, furrowing my brow. I didn't see the logic in it. Why would half of us leave the classroom to go somewhere else if there was a threat out there? A few other kids in the class seemed to share my concern, but most of them didn't care. They were simply willing to do what the teacher said. I waited for more information from Mrs. Santiago, but she didn't do anything for several minutes. After turning the lights off and locking the door, she just stood at the front of the classroom, hands clasped behind her back, looking at us with a small smile on her lips. Finally, just when I was about to ask her what was going on, she split the class in half down the middle, telling those of us on the left side to come with her, and those on the right to stay in the classroom. I stood and lined up with the other kids on the left, while those on the right got against the wall. We followed Mrs. Santiago out of the classroom, taking a right. I was 3 kids behind her, peering around them to watch her, thinking about the strange ways teachers had been acting. She was in her 50s, with hair that had mostly gone from black to gray. She wore a floral print dress with frilly short sleeves. As we walked down the hall, I saw a drop of blood crawl down the back of her arm from under the sleeve.
Whoa.
It stopped just above her elbow. A bad feeling seated itself in my stomach as we reached the doors.
Why y'all
to the
timing
gym.
out? Why y'all timing out
Mrs.
Chewy? What's going on,
Santiago
bro? What
stepped
the fuck?
aside and opened one of them to usher us inside.
Someone tell me what Chewy did.
It was dark inside the gym because all the lights were off. As soon as I walked through the door, I stepped aside while the other kids walked past me into the darkness. I could hear some of them murmuring. They knew something was wrong. One of the students
Andrew Tate,
pulled out
bro.
a phone
Chill,
and
bro.
turned on
Chill.
the flashlight.
The heck?
The illumination revealed other people in the gym.
Don't abuse your mob
Teachers,
powers.
just standing there in the dark on either side of the doors, making a wide corridor in which the students now stood. There must have been a dozen of them, and as the flashlight came on, they moved in on the students. Screams bounced around the gym as the teachers attacked the students with knives and cleavers from the school kitchen. The sickening sound of metal piercing flesh and blood spilling to the glossy gym floor unleashed a deep fear inside me. Since I'd stepped aside to the wall when I'd entered the gym, I was still in the dark. I stumbled back toward
why
the
y'all
door,
trying to follow me on
watching
Twitch real fast? I
abject
just turned on the
horror
alerts.
as
I'm not sure if they
knives
work,
plunged
though.
into my fellow students.
I may have to restart the
Clammy
stream for it
cold
to work.
hands grabbed my shoulders. I panicked, throwing an elbow behind me and connecting with what felt like a nose.
If I
to
restart the
mouth.
stream, no one
The
leave
hands came off
if I
of me as
restart
I
it.
turned around, seeing Mrs. Santiago standing there staring at me.
Yeah, it's not working.
Her mouth
I don't know why the
split
alerts
open
aren't working.
and her nose bleeding.
I don't know why the alerts aren't working.
I
Hold on.
shoved past.
I'm gonna restart this. I'm gonna restart the stream on Twitch and YouTube. No one leave. I'm restarting it. Just stay in the live. Do not leave. Do not leave. Okay.